Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jim Danhauser. I'm a volunteer with the Cape Cod and Islands chapter of SCORE. I wanted to cover just a couple of quick introductory items before turning things over to our facilitator for today, my friend Matt Stevens. Matt is a subject matter expert with the Cape Cod and Islands chapter. You see listed on this slide the organizations that provide assistance to us in presenting this webinar. We're supported by the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, as well as by the Chambers of Commerce located in regions throughout Cape Cod and the Islands, and the Community Development Partnership located in Eastham. And as always, we're very grateful to these organizations for their ongoing support of our educational efforts. For those of you who are not familiar with SCORE, we're a fully volunteer, nonprofit organization and a resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration. SCORE's mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. We've been pursuing this work since our founding some 60 years ago by offering educational opportunities like this webinar and by providing mentoring assistance to people who are in business or who are thinking about starting a business. Here at our chapter on Cape Cod, we benefit from having over 50 subject matter experts and volunteer mentors, people with a broad array of different business experience and expertise, all of whom are ready to provide mentoring assistance to you in connection with your business activities. And that same holds true for every chapter throughout the Massachusetts and Rhode Island district. And we can also connect you with volunteers throughout the country, so we can find people who have relevant business experience for your business activities. Importantly, all of that mentoring assistance is absolutely free and completely confidential. So if you'd like to take advantage of that service, there's two ways to go. One is you can sign on to the SCORE National website, www.score.org. Click on the Find a Mentor tab from the drop-down menu under Request a Mentor and get going. Or you can go to the website of your local SCORE chapter. The ones in our district are displayed there, and you can click on the Find a Mentor tab to get started. Finally, just a couple of things about procedures for today. Everybody except for Matt and myself have been muted. I'd ask that you type any questions you have into the Q&A feature. Don't raise your hand or use chat. Why? Well, I'm going to be feeding questions to Matt as they come in so that he answers them as they're relevant to the material he's talking about. And it's just easier for me to do that by not having to toggle back and forth between different features. As you are aware, the webinar is being recorded. I will send out a link to that recording to everybody who registered for today's session in the next day or two once it's available. And part two of this program will take place next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Be aware that you need to register separately for that session. The registration link is listed there, and I will also include that in the email that I send out with the recording link. So with that, I'll turn things over to my friend and colleague, Matt Stevens. Matt, take it away.
Thank you, as always, Jim. I appreciate the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining us this morning. I know it is 9 a.m. and what I want to do is within hopefully a succinct 45 minutes, cover some of the most important basics of email marketing. So let's go ahead and dive in here. Awesome. And Jim, can you guys see this? Is this being shared here? Awesome.
Yes, we can see it.
So let's jump right in. So what are we going to be talking about today? And I already see some questions coming in on chat. And like Jim said, any questions that you guys have, just throw them into the Q&A portion. It's right at the bottom. And we'll cover any questions that you may have, as well as have some time at the very end. But today we're going to be talking about the foundations, right? Building a list, uploading any existing list that you may have, as well as the segmentation of that list. And then finally, the setup portion of your email marketing tool or your automation system. Next, we're going to talk about design. Again, I am not a pro at design. However, I've worked with over 1,000 businesses with their email marketing strategies and helped come up and conceptualize some of them. So I will be touching on important things that go into building templates, sending out newsletters, and also building what are known as landing pages. And we'll get to that. Then finally, onwards, what's next? Jim mentioned that we do have a part two where we'll get a little bit more in depth into the segmentation aspect, as well as automation and email automation. So getting started, let's talk about the foundations. Really, when you look at the amount of tools that are on the market for email marketing, there's hundreds, there's a ton, right? But a lot of times it gets boiled down to the big two. And even at this point, I would say that it's the big one. In my opinion, I've worked for Constant Contact before, and I've worked for MailChimp before. Both of them are phenomenal. My preference is MailChimp. However, they both have their own sense of benefits and pros and cons. MailChimp has better design and automation, specializes in e-commerce and very small businesses, and it has an all-in-one solution. Whereas Constant Contact has better customer support and small business help. They're focused on real estate and nonprofits, and also it's an all-in-one solution. But if you use something like Klaviyo, HubSpot, Drip, whatever, even Aweber, all of those work, right? The one thing that I will say is if you are planning on sending out email marketing emails from your Gmail, your Outlook, your Yahoo, or your iCloud, I would reconsider. And there's a reason for this. You do not want to be blocked by a firewall when sending those mass emails. That's why a mass email tool is so effective. So they're designed to make business email marketing less time consuming, give you important tools to optimize those email marketing sends, as well as to avoid the spam folder, which is really the big one. And again, like we said, HubSpot, Sendinblue, ActiveCampaign, MailerLite, OmniSend, ConvertKit, MailerJet, Klaviyo. There's literally a zillion more. And you may want to do your own research on which one is best. But when in doubt, what I always recommend is start with MailChimp. See if MailChimp fits for you. And then if it doesn't, then maybe jump over to Constant Contact or something like Klaviyo or even ActiveCampaign. Those are probably my top four. Building your list. Well, how do we get people on the email list? That's really the basis of everything, right? Is one of the beautiful things about email marketing is it's one of the only ways in marketing that you take the ball from your customer's court and place it on your own, right? When you're looking at social media, you have to rely on your customer to go out and hunt you down, find your page. And reach is so important in social media. On email and as well as texting, SMS marketing, you have the ability to directly reach out with them. So you have to make it count. But how do we build this email list? Well, there's a few different ways we can do that, right? The most common and the thing that's most efficient that I would say based on my experience is website signups, getting people to sign up directly off of your website, either compelling them through some type of deliverable or even some type of value add when they do sign up. Additionally, you have social signups. So if someone were to find your social media account, you have a link tree or you have some type of link within your social media, they can click that and sign up through there. Additionally, you have landing pages. We're going to get to this a little later, but if you have events, if you have pop-up shops, if you have a storefront, if you have some type of way that they can then enter their information or even sign up for an event such as what we are currently on right now, that's a really good way of building an email list. And then finally, manual imports. Do you have any lists of customers that you currently have that you're just not using? Well, then let's import them so that you can actually use them. So you may be sitting here and you may be starting from scratch, right? And you may not have anyone yet, and that's great. Or you may actually have a list of your own customers right now, and you're saying, Matt, I already have a list. How do I upload it? Well, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we take it step by step, because it is very, very important that you upload it the right way. When we're looking at the building blocks of every single email marketing tool, it's almost the exact same process. MailChimp and Constant Contact differ a little bit, but what you are looking for is your audience. This is your entire email list. Constant Contact, Klaviyo, Active Campaign, some of those call it different names. Most of them either call it the audience or the contacts in general. And then what you're going to want to do is import your contacts or add your contacts. Make sure that you have your list prepped in an Excel file. Now, one thing that I will say is if you have a file that really isn't formatted as a CSV or an Excel file, a CSV is a comma separated values file. It's just an Excel file. It's the same thing. You do not have one formatted in that. You can actually use AI tools to take plain text and format them into CSV files. So that's something I would consider to save you a little bit of time there. Then we want to categorize it, right? We want to categorize these contacts within our audience in a grand scheme of things using list segmentation, which we will get to, but not super heavily today. List segmentation is figuring out characteristics of each one of your contacts that make a lot of sense and that you want to distinguish. So when I'm uploading a list, say for instance, for SCORE, right? First, I want to categorize people potentially on what chapter they're coming from. Are they coming from Hyannis? Are they coming from the Nantucket chapter? Are they coming from it's all the Cape Cod and Islands chapter, but this is just an example. From the Orleans chapter. Next, I want to say, okay, have they been to a workshop, or are they someone who takes someone who engages within some of our other events? That's how you segment your list to find more important characteristics that you can then use in the future when you are sending out your email. And that's the most important part of this entire process, is figuring out who people are behind just their email address. And then finally, you just want to make sure that you click the updates portion. This is going to analyze each one of your emails. If you already have existing emails within the account, and rather than completely just create a new record or a new contact, it's just going to update existing ones. If you follow that process in whichever account, whichever program that you use, it's going to have the same effect. So I talked about who, yep, yes,
The
Jim.
question came in.
Absolutely.
What's the best practices for collecting email addresses?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different variations, right, based on what we talked about. The easiest way of collecting them is on a website, but the best practices and the most important thing is to send emails within any one of these accounts or programs or email marketing tools. You have to verify that they've consented to receiving marketing information. The easiest way to do this is on website. Just make sure that you have that little checkbox saying, hey, I'd like to receive marketing from your company, right? That's making sure that you are compliant with all of the GDPR, as well as any other privacy laws, for instance, California and Idaho, to make sure that you are actually delivering the information that people want to see rather than spamming them with stuff that they've never signed up with. But you can get emails however make the most sense to you. You can get them from your website. If you have some type of landing page on your website, such as a get a quote contact form, or even if you're working in store, some of the most effective email campaigns I've seen have started from just a pad, a paper, and a pen, and having people write down their email address, first name, last name, and whether or not they've opted in. And then you can go ahead and follow that import process to get them into your account. Awesome. Anything else, Jim?
Not right now.
Awesome. So we're talking about building customer personas. So think about what you do when you receive promotional emails, right? Do you read them? Do you have some that you do read? And if you do, why? Why do you read them? I mean, even from me as someone who's been within this industry, I have newsletters I subscribe to that I read on a weekly basis. I don't read them every day. And then I have newsletters that I subscribe to that I might read once a month. And then I have newsletters I subscribe to that I probably shouldn't be subscribed to, and they get really annoying. So the most important thing when it comes to sending out consistent email marketing is you have to provide value to the people that you are sending it to. And that's why segmentation is so important. But how do you know something is valuable, right? Well, you have to identify your customer persona. And that all starts with your target market. Who's your target market? Do you have a target market of artists? Do you have a target market of people that are interested in technology? Do you have a target market of just local people to the town of Orleans, right? What is your target market? And how can you then provide actionable value to those people on an infrequent basis to keep them coming back? So that's why you see some of the most successful email sends as what to do in Boston, or what to do on vacation in Alaska. All these newsletters that give you tips about a local area. It's because it's very easy to identify that as a segmentation point. But when you're sending an email, provide value to your target market, gather information that you can use to provide future value and segment your list, and then focus that attention on your next step or a call to action. Every email should have one call to action. That's it. You do not, the old method of utilizing newsletters is 3 or 4 different calls to actions, a service here, a workshop here, boom, 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 3 products on the bottom. That's not the case anymore. Really, what you want to do is just make sure you keep it as simple as humanly possible and move them to that next point, right? And what is that next point? So let's talk about value. Like we talked about, we're looking at demographics, we're looking at interests, content preferences. Are they like videos, photos, or blogs? Engagement, past purchases, and even their schedule, right? I mean, I also work on the SEO front, and I can tell you right away that on the weekends, the search on the organic Google search engine shoots way down. And it's because people typically are offline, right? People's schedule really matter when it comes to email marketing as well. Are they in the office? Are they on their drive home? Are they at home? Additionally, demographics. Do you provide more value to male or female? Do you provide more value to the younger generation or the older generation? What are their interests? Are they interested in stuff that's complementary to your products? We talked about content preferences and also engagement. Why are people engaging? Did you learn anything from people engaging? Going back to that last slide, we need to gather information that we can then use to provide future value. That's that engagement and the past purchases portion. That's that information that we've gathered that we can then use to segment our list a little bit more and provide more future value. So list segmentation.
Matt, before you move into that, let's grab a couple of questions that came in. What if you're doing direct B2B outreach? Is it advisable to contact people more than once?
So one thing that I will say, right, is when I hear the outreach word, outreach is okay. But one of the things that I would caution you with is if you are purchasing a list, or if you have a list that you've gathered from like LinkedIn, and these people aren't people that have opted into your email marketing, for the most part, it's going to be a little difficult and also not advised to send out emails from your email marketing tool. You can definitely send them out from like a Gmail, but definitely caution yourself, because that is grounds for a spam report, as well as just really some of the worst things that could happen. So just caution yourself. Outreach is okay. Once again, you can send them, but just don't spam people the same message. Make sure that you tailor it to them. But going back, Jim, what was the tail end of that question? I just wanted to make sure I gave that a heads up.
Is it okay to contact them more than once?
Yes, and it's okay to contact them more than once, but if they're not replying, or if they're coming back with, "Hey, I'm not interested," yeah, you may want to follow up once or twice, but differently, it's kind of a catch-22, right? You can follow up with them and potentially get the sale, but every email that you send, it's a little bit more dangerous to then being spam reported by that person. If these are people that have opted into your marketing, right? The people that have actually signed up for receiving your email, email them as many times as you want until they unsubscribe. And unsubscribes are not a bad thing. That just means that they're not interested. It's basically like getting a hard no in a sales call. Hey, I am good. I do not want this. Please leave me alone. That's okay. That means that you don't have to spend time with that person anymore. Obviously it stinks because it's another person that may not be seeing your beautiful emails, but it's going to go a long way because it's going to allow you to spend your time on other people. But it's always a good idea with your email marketing to send emails, again, with the focus on value, to people as many times as humanly possible. But you definitely don't want to send like 3 or 4 a day. Every once in a while, if you're sending newsletters on a monthly basis, weekly basis, whatever makes sense for you. But yes, it's totally fine.
My website Wix collects subscribers and I send emails from there. Is that good enough, or do you still recommend MailChimp?
Yeah, that's actually a great one. I actually have a lot of clients that use Wix themselves. It's a good service. It's pretty bare bones, which again for a lot of people is solid. I like stuff that's a little more complex. MailChimp has a really good automation system. That's why I like it. But if Wix works for you and you're sending emails and you're getting opens, you're getting clicks, that's all that matters. I mean, use what makes the most sense for you.
How can I attach a PDF or a video link to Google Drive files? Okay.
Linked to Google Drive files are all right. Just make sure that you're sharing them with everyone. The sharing with Google Drive can sometimes come back to bite you in the butt. With a lot of these email builders, there's actually ways that you can embed videos into the email themselves or link to certain things with buttons. Sometimes that might be the move. However, if you want to keep things simple, like some of the most successful newsletters nowadays are just like basically a Word document with like a few links here and there. That's fine. Just make sure that the link is working before you send it out. Anything else, Jim?
No, you said.
Awesome. So list segmentation. If you want, we are going to really dive into this next week, but let's talk about the most important things. Building audiences, lists, fields, groups, segments, tags based on particular characteristics. So first and foremost, we talked about this earlier, right? The contact list or the audience is the surface level identifier. This is everyone within your audience, everyone that is going to be receiving your emails if you were to send it to everyone in your list, right? Underneath that, you have groups and fields, right? What are groups and fields? Well, groups and fields are important characteristics, but they're slightly different. Groups are, in the grand scheme of things, where you can house a certain amount of customers to a greater extent, right? Say, for instance, we're talking about, once again, SCORE. My groups may be the different towns within Cape Cod, right? However, there is a difference between groups and fields. Fields are the very small characteristics that make up your contact, right? So you have your email, you have your name, you have your address, you have your phone number. Those are all fields, right? But you can have custom fields, right? Okay, like how much did the total spend on the e-commerce store, or what color or what type of car they drive, right? It really depends on your business. Like say, for instance, you're running some type of auto body. What car they drive would actually be a pretty solid thing to use, because then say, for instance, you get new parts in for Toyotas, you can send out an email to all the Toyota owners, right? So they're a little bit different, but they work similarly with a lot of the features within email marketing tools. However, groups are external from the contact itself, whereas fields are internal to the contact itself. Underneath that, you have segments and tags. Segments and tags are probably the most granular and distinct segmentation option. You have segments that really can utilize different fields and different groups and different tags to create smaller groups within that initial group, right? I know this is a lot, but think of groups as the greater, larger division within your audience, and segments as a division within the groups, right? And then tags are very distinct characteristics, right? You can tag anyone anything. So if they like dogs, you can say, hey, they like dogs, you know. If they drink water, you can say they drink water. I mean, obviously, those are probably not going to help you provide value, but it's just an example, right? A lot of times I use tags to denote when people are engaging with certain things within an email, right? I write engagement hyphen welcome email number 1, or clicked initial product promotion, right? And that way I can kind of identify how they're engaging with previous emails, but you could also tag them. Like I said, all right, they have purchased socks, they've purchased shirts, and they've purchased pants. So now you know what they've purchased in the past. And when that time comes that you have those products, you can use them again. They're persona defining keywords. And the customer persona is a collection of all those different things that make up one contact, right? What group are they in? What segments are they in? What tags do they have? What are the makeup of their fields? And that's how you generate a customer persona. Because if you pay attention to your email marketing consistently, you'll be able to add more and more to that and define who they are. So how to segment? Well, the easiest way is manual tagging. And that's just basically looking at your email sends, figuring out what people interacted with, and then going in and adding tags, or maybe even changing their group, whatever makes sense. Additionally, you have landing pages, right? Say you have a sign up landing page for an event such as the one that we're in right now. You could actually, on that landing page, if they fill that out, you could auto tag them a specific way and say they signed up for the email marketing workshop. Additionally, you have click segmentation and automations. Every single email marketing tool has automations where, say, for instance, they click something on your email, they're automatically tagged a certain way. And that's typically where an email marketing technician would come in and kind of help you identify how to segment and what is the optimal way of automating that. And then you have integrations, right? Shopify, your website like Wix, like we talked about, those will all have different variations of how to tag certain people. Squarespace has very similar things, WordPress. And then finally, action blocks, right? Certain accounts have what are known as action blocks, like MailChimp or Constant Contact, where there's surveys, polls, RSVPs, and those can actually be used as click segmentation. That falls into that click segmentation, but those action blocks were created specifically to segment your audience.
Matt, a question on that.
Yep.
If you don't set the fields and segments up correctly at the beginning, how do you collect this information after the fact?
That is a phenomenal question. And what I will say is that's why it's so important to set them up initially. But if you did not, it's okay. What I would recommend is taking maybe an hour or so, and exporting your list. If you have a huge list, this is just impossible. It's not going to work. It's a waste of time. And it's something that, unfortunately, you're just going to have to roll with. And you may, once again, replace those from the information that you've learned over time. But if you have a small enough list, I would encourage you to, before you upload them into an email marketing account, or even if you have them in your email marketing account, to pull them out of that account and analyze them and see if there's any information that you know about your clients that you can then go ahead and use as different fields. That's the easiest way to start adding some of that information. Or once you're importing them in the first place, that's another pretty easy way to do that. But yeah, that's why the setup aspect and the segmentation aspect early on is so important, because you need to know that information.
And then how much data is it smart to ask for in a sign-up form?
That's another great question. What I would always recommend is your goal is to learn one new thing. That's it. If you're going to learn one new thing about a sign-up form, like for instance, if we were talking about the sign-up form for this workshop, they learned one new thing about us, right? Because we're interested in email marketing, right? However, if you want to go one further, that's totally fine. What email marketing platform do you use, right? And now, not only do you know that they're into learning about email marketing, but now you know that some of them use Wix, some of them use MailChimp, some of them use Constant Contact, so on and so forth, right? So now you learn 2 new pieces of information you can use to then go into your list and update your list. Great questions, guys. Anything else, Jim?
Somebody asked, about frequency of sending emails. Is it okay to send an email every week, or will people feel it's too much?
That's really up to your discretion. I have people I've worked with that send daily emails. I personally think that that's way too much. I would not open a daily email. Weekly emails, if it makes sense for your industry, like if it's a fast moving industry and stuff is going on every week, like for instance, if you're in like politics, and I will say like politics is a no-no for most email marketing companies. They don't allow you to send political outreach through them. But say, for instance, you're in politics, like obviously there's a lot happening right now. That would be like a weekly email. That would make a lot of sense. So it really depends on, and if you're in school, right? If you're an education consultant or a college counselor or something like that, around the time of back to school, maybe you go from a monthly email to a weekly email for maybe 1 month, and then you turn it back to the month. It really is based on your preference. It's based on, okay, what makes the most sense for my company right now, and will my audience get annoyed with me? It's your choice. But great question.
All done.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Awesome. So yeah, and we talked about this automation here. This is MailChimp. I'm not going to jump into that. We'll talk about that next week. And this is an example of a pretty complex MailChimp automation. You guys do not have to do this. This is pretty complex. This is stuff that I like to do with my emails and with client emails, but really we don't have to get that complex. Making it look nice. This is also very important. So what do you guys think? And I want you to throw it in chat this time, not the Q&A. What do you think the most common thing people use marketing softwares for? What do you think that people use email marketing softwares for far and away? What do you think? When I was working at Constant Contact, there was one thing that people asked for probably 9 out of 10 times. What do you think it was?
Okay, we got a business development.
Business development, nice design. All right, give me 2 more. I want 2 more. If we don't get 2 more, that's fine. Beggars can't be choosers. You know how it is. Sales. Thank you, Janet. 1 more. Newsletter. Grow my clientele. Info. Sweet. Sweet. So I will tell you right out the gate. Newsletter. Megan. That's ding, ding, ding. That's it. People came to Constant Contact and they said, hey, do you know how I can build a newsletter template? I want a newsletter template. They want templates. Are templates important nowadays? I don't know. You tell me. Do you think that your emails that you open, do you think that the templatized ones are more successful than the not templatized ones? That's up to you. Recently, I've seen more success, and I made this PowerPoint just a little while ago. I consistently go in and refresh it, but this is one thing that I would say I'm kind of on the fence about. Templates look great, but again, templates are very common. There's a lot of people that use them. And sometimes even just sending out a plain text piece of information through email can be a little more successful depending on your business. Why do you think that is? Well, it goes back to the rest of your answers, right? Business development, growing clientele. It's allowing people to see what you offer on a consistent basis. It's keeping your business front of mind. And templates are great with that because of the psychology of design. People, when they see your colors, when they see your logo consistently, when they realize what you have, a lot of times it gets their brain churning and looking back into, okay, how could this business potentially help my business? Or how could this business potentially help my life? And that's how you move people on situations where it's a YMYL decision. Your money, your life. How are you going to use that? Well, you need to prove that your business deserves this person's money and this person's life or time. So here's an example, right? This is a crazy template. Do I like this template personally? No, I don't. However, I think that if your business, your target market is artistic or someone or people that are interested in design or that want stuff to look good, like for instance, like Apple clients. Personally, the Apple clients, again, tech, artistic, they like stuff that where the UI looks good. This is probably going to go a long way. But does it fit with your business? Probably not. You may want something a little bit more basic, maybe something like that, you know. And obviously this is written within the Gmail, right? This is written pretty basically within something that probably shouldn't be sent out to more than these three: Olina, Julia, and Henri, right? You probably don't want to send that out to more than that. But if you're keeping something simple, this is going to go just as far as that other template if you use it correctly with your customers, and if you focus it to your target audience. So let's talk about the dreaded newsletter. Is the newsletter dead? No, it's not. It's not. It's never gonna die. You can try to kill it all you want. You can punch it and kick it. It's not going anywhere. I mean, you've had industries try to kill the newsletter 4 or 5 different times. It's still here. It's still kicking. And why is it so successful? Well, like we talked about, staying top of mind, right? Making sure that you showcase your business on a consistent basis, but also building customer personas, driving consistent engagement, building your brand, delivering the value we talked about. But at the same time, it's time consuming, right? Building a newsletter every week is crazy. Building a newsletter every month is a little less crazy, but it's still a time suck, you know? And also, you definitely don't want to get spam reports, even though email marketing tools are going to drastically, and I mean drastically, reduce the risk of a spam report. There's still a chance for if you're sending too many emails. And then finally, the client customer frustration. All right, why am I getting sent this exact same email 5 days in a row where there's nothing that's changed and there's nothing valuable to me? Why am I receiving this? I'm going to unsubscribe. So when you're building your newsletter, think about your customer personas, right? Think about what your audience will react and engage with. Think about the design features that you want to put into it. And the simpler, the better when you're starting off. Just keep it simple, offer one thing of value, and it's going to go a long way. So when you're building your newsletter, let's talk about some building blocks, right? So you may want 3 sections or pieces of content. Is that important? You don't need 3, but 3 sections allows people to kind of get a little taste of what you're going through. And you can whittle that down to 2 sections, 1 section. But then you want one primary call to action, and that's the most important thing. It has to be one primary call to action, because you want people that read your email to do one thing. That's it. You don't want to give them a bunch of other options. Obviously, you can then provide 2 secondary calls to actions if you want, but if they are going to overshadow your primary call to action, it may not be a good idea. Say, for instance, you're throwing out a newsletter, like, for instance, let's talk about SCORE, right? SCORE, or like the Chamber of Commerce or whatever, sends out newsletters each week with a few different events or a few different things. Hey, we're doing this. Also, we have these 2 events coming up. And also we have like our gala, right? Well, the formatting of that newsletter can go a long way to showcase which one they want you to really see and navigate to. And a lot of times that initial primary call to action is right at the top. Hey, we just want to show you this, get your opinion on this. If you scroll past, then you have your secondary calls to actions. But you only have less than a second to really hook people into what you're doing, especially with newsletters. And that's why changing up the design, and a lot of those templates are falling off by the wayside, with people coming in with plain text emails or very simple, straightforward, one block, one button newsletter templates. Is they're changing up the design. So it's up to you to say, okay, what does my clientele want? And let me address that in a way. And then I have some examples here. Let's go ahead and try and click one of them. So this is what's known as the direct to consumer newsletter. This is one that I actually subscribe to. They're pretty good. But one of the things that they're very solid with is their design, right? I can't technically show you the content on here, but let's go ahead and no, it's not going to work. But one of the things that they do very well is they separate their newsletter into bite-sized pieces of information. They give you, okay, here's what's going on in the marketing world. Here's what's going on in the tech world. Here's what's going on in the blank world. And then they have a bunch of stuff at the end that's secondary, right? Once again, they want you to click on those initial links. This is Morning Brew. That's an investing one. It's pretty solid, but again, it's really the same thing. And when we're looking at send comparison, this is when we have all of our content. When we know what we're sending, how we send it is also important, right? Your send and your click rate is directly shaped by your subject line, and also your brand awareness. If people know your brand, but your subject line is kind of off, they're probably not going to open it. So when you're looking at your send, you have a few different options to customize this. First off, who are you sending the campaign to? Are you sending it to your full list, or are you sending a segmented campaign utilizing a segment like we see on the left side in Constant Contact right at the top? The same thing goes for MailChimp. You can send it to a segment, a group, or a tag, right? Who are you focusing this email on? Does your newsletter really need to go to your entire list, or just a small group of your most engaged or least engaged people? Next, who's it from? Do you want to use your own name? Do you want to use your business name? Or do you want to use something that might be a little bit more distinct, right? Do you want to use, like, for instance, I always use Matt@Cogs for my own company. But if I were to send an email to everyone at SCORE, the SCORE mentors, volunteers, SMEs, and workshop presenters, maybe I would say Matt@SCORE, right? So it depends. And then your subject line. What is going on within the email that's going to drive value? What is valuable about this email? And there may be two ways to distinguish what's valuable, right? There may be two different subject lines you want to test. Well, if you look on the left side under Constant Contact, that's where you see that A/B test. We'll get to that next week. That allows you to test two different subject lines. Okay, which one is more successful? And that way you can kind of see what people are responding to most often. That's information you can use in the future for other subject lines based on your audience and how they respond. But the subject line within MailChimp, it's only one. So what I would always recommend within your subject line is highlight the value within your email and paint what call to action you want people to take, right? Say for instance, you are sending out a downloadable list for how to prepare your lawn in the fall, right? I don't know. Are you a landscaper? Probably not. But if you're sending out a newsletter regarding that information, your number one piece of value is, okay, here's a downloadable list of a checklist of what you need to get done in the fall. And you want people to download that list. Well, your subject can be our list, our downloadable PDF checklist for the fall or something like that. That's an horrendous subject line, but I'm on the spot. Just again, you want to paint that value. You want to make sure that people know what they are going to expect, because that's going to get those open rate. And then finally, using landing pages. Well, landing pages are like almost a Swiss Army knife, right? They do a whole lot of different things. You can sign up people for events. You can learn more information about people. You can showcase videos. You can get a survey done. You can send RSVPs to your wedding. I mean, whether you want to do that on MailChimp is really your choice, but there's a ton of different things that you can get done within a landing page. And a lot of them look something like this, right? It's built very similarly to a template within the email marketing side of things, but it's way more simple, right? The focus of most landing pages is to gather information, get a sign up, get one more piece of information, get people subscribed to your email list. But also, it's important that you show people what it's about, right? What's within the landing page? Well, they need to lead somewhere, right? We talked about all these: personalized page, temporary website, event RSVP, sign up page. You can use landing pages as those Swiss Army knives in order to then drive people from your email campaign to a landing page for a workshop, or drive people from your email to a landing page for a video. And you're able to monitor what goes on the landing pages using analytics software. And you could also add more information to that person's contact. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. You could also just send them to your website. A landing page is basically like a temporary website. But if you have a page on your website that you'd like to send them to instead, I would recommend doing that first and foremost, because that's going to allow you to then get them back on the website, which is the goal, right? You want to get them back on your website where then they can make a purchase. So here are some cool examples. I don't know which one are each of you. Let's try Curiosity. Okay, so here's Zillow, right? Well, first and foremost, their number one thing that they're trying to do is get you to use their service, right? So their call to action is right here. But then underneath that, then you have, okay, get home recommendations, buy a home, sell a home, rent a home. They have those secondary call to actions right here. It's built just like an email template. So let's check this free trial thing. Here's Shopify. Simple, right? Bring your ideas to life for $1 a month. That's their value. Let's sell stuff for $1 a month right here. Boom. And then they want you to start the free trial. Enter your email address. Boom. And then obviously underneath, most of the time they want people to start it right here. But then you have your secondary content. People scroll down. Okay, here's our selling factors. Here's the things that make us cool. Here's who we've worked with. Here's a testimonial. And then here's another try. Here's our secondary call to action. Let's try product. Wildflower Club. So right here, this is actually one of their website pages. And once again, you want to get them back to your website. So they want you to become a subscriber. However, if you scroll down a little bit more, once again, there's selling factors, start your flower subscription. That's their secondary. So there's a lot of different ways that you can build landing pages. But once again, it's the same way as you would build an email. Primary call to action at the top based on your customer audience or your target audience and your customer personas. If they bail on that, scroll down, secondary content with secondary calls to actions, and then just make sure that you're sending them in a frequency that makes the most sense for your business. And there's 3 takeaways that I want to just go over, and then we'll answer some questions. Always learn more about your customers, old and new, and use it to create your content. It's the most important thing, because you learn new things about your current customers. It allows you to create new value for your new customers, right? Additionally, take full advantage of a consistent newsletter. One thing that I did talk about is obviously you can ramp it up and ramp it down, right? You can say, okay, I want to send during the summer because say you're a teacher, you're running a school district. I'm going to ramp it down. These kids are on summer vacation. The parents really aren't doing anything in terms of prepping for school just yet. So I'm not going to send them a newsletter each month. However, when they get back to school, then we need to get consistent again. So take full advantage of your consistency based on your client schedules. You can look it up. You can say, what's the best time for me to send a newsletter? All of that information is correct for certain industries. So what's best for you? Should you send it while they're on lunchtime at the office, on their way home? Maybe send it at 7 o'clock or even 9 a.m. You'll notice a lot of promotions get sent out at 9 a.m. in the morning because people are getting into their office or looking at their emails. So just stay consistent, because what it's doing overarching hope for newsletters is that you're staying engaged with the customer and you're staying top of mind, because if it's interesting, they're going to come back eventually. And finally, use the tools that you have at your disposal, because these platforms are designed to make your life easier, and so you can work smarter, not harder. One of the things that I love being down in the Cape is that we are a seasonal environment. Business is more difficult inherently. So one of the biggest problems that we have to face is, okay, how can we get more done in less time? Well, there's tools out there that can help you do just that. So find the tool that's right for you, whether it be Wix or MailChimp or Constant Contact, Klaviyo, ActiveCampaign, whatever it is that makes the most sense for your business, and then learn it. because if you learn it, you take full advantage of it, it's going to save you 10 plus hours a month so that you can go back to actually running your business and not having a headache over email marketing. And guys, that's it. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Let's talk some questions here, and hopefully I can answer them, send you on your way for 10 o'clock.
Okay, first, a bunch of the emails that I send out through MailChimp seem to end up in people's spam folders.
Spam folders.
What do I do about that?
So there's a few things that you can do. The number one most important thing on MailChimp is make sure that your domain is verified. If you're sending from a Gmail or an iCloud or something like that, it's going to be more common for you to land in a spam folder just due to the fact that you're sending from like an email provider like that, right? Like Gmail, like Yahoo. What I would recommend is, if you haven't done this already, invest in either a Google Workspace or some type of mailbox within your hosting platform that will give you an email within your domain. And then what you want to do is verify that domain. You can do that right within MailChimp. You just need access to your hosting provider or your Google Workspace. And that way you can actually connect the dots and then make sure that you're actually you're getting that connection set up. That's going to allow you to avoid the spam more often, and that's typically the first thing that I would recommend checking out.
Do you recommend landing pages as part of your website or separate?
I would say you probably every page on your website inherently is going to be a landing page, right? Every website is a landing page. It's just a collection of landing pages. I would say if you can make if you want to make a landing page, the first place that I would go to make a landing page is your website, right? You, of course, you have MailChimp and Constant Contact and stuff that have specifically like a service to create landing pages. But a lot of times it's just better to get them on your website, right? Because then they can then make a turn and go to your services page or your products page or your about page and do their research and hopefully purchase something or get involved.
And there's a general question about how do you create the landing page?
Yeah, creating the landing page. Well, one of the beautiful things about website builders as well as email marketing tools, for the most part, they're trying to make it as simple as humanly possible to create anything, to create websites, to create landing pages, to create emails. What I would say is find the tool that makes the most sense. If you're using Wix, or if you're using Squarespace or Webflow or Weebly or MailChimp or Constant Contact, they all have a platform to then build those pages, right? So just find what page or what page builder makes the most sense for you, and then learn a little bit about it, right? The easiest way to then build a page is focus on what we talked about, right? The framework. Well, you want to put your primary content right at the top and then provide your primary call to action right underneath. And then underneath that, you can provide secondary pieces of content and calls to actions. That's the most important thing. It really doesn't matter how it's designed. And then obviously you have plenty of phenomenal artists and graphic designers that can come in and help you guys do just that. But there's also a lot of free education right on YouTube that you can look up to help you build on whatever platform that you use.
Do I verify your email domain if sending direct emails from email not automated?
So if you're sending an email from like a Gmail or like from your Outlook,
I think that's the question.
yeah, if you don't have like if you're sending from a program like that, you don't have to verify your email. Just note that if you're sending mass emails, and again, this is one of the most important things that if you guys take this away, if you are sending mass emails from like a Gmail account or an Outlook account, stop immediately. Do not do that. Because what's going to happen is that email is going to be blacklisted, and they're not going to tell you that it's blacklisted, but what's going to happen is you're going to send emails that are important client emails, if you use that Gmail often, to your clients that they're not even going to see in their inbox, because Google has has figured out that that email that you've been sending from is likely spam. So they're going to funnel that into promotions, and people aren't going to be able to see your emails. Be very careful. That's why these email marketing tools are so nice, because they allow you to send those mass emails in a way that is on what's known as a whitelisted server, which Google knows, okay, this person is sending an email marketing email out, like an email blast. They should land in the inbox.
Someone said it's probably worth emphasizing that tools like Outreach, Mixmax, et cetera, use your Gmail iCloud account. They aren't the same as MailChimp Constant Contact.
Yeah, so of course there's tools that do that. But like I said, I mean, you just got to be careful on tools like that, just because, especially if you're using like a domain email, like say for instance, like I were to use my email like at Score, like matt@scorevolunteer.org, right? If I were to send out with that email a bunch of spam, or even through a service like that, if it's not a whitelisted server, what could happen is not only would that email from me be penalized, but the domain in general would also be penalized too. So just be careful with that. Yes.
Yeah. The point is that people may think they're using an email marketing tool, but they're blasting out of their personal email account if they're
Yeah.
using Outreach and all those.
Exactly.
Should I use sales at my domain to avoid blacklist instead of John at my domain?
It's completely up to you. If you're following the rules, right? So if you are doing one of two things, right? If you're sending infrequent, important emails from your domain through your mailbox, like say for instance, you have john@mydomain.com, and you're sending that from your Google Workspace or your Outlook, and you're not sending like these mass emails to like 100 people or 150 people, you're going to be just fine. They're not going to whitelist you. You're going to be good. And if you're sending mass emails using that exact same email, utilizing a tool like MailChimp, Constant Contact, or Klaviyo, you're going to be just fine. Both of those two things are built for those two functionalities. Now, if you cross over, right, say for instance, you're trying to send mass emails out of your Gmail account, that is going to get you blacklisted. But whether you use sales or John, it doesn't matter. It's going to affect the domain. It's not just going to affect that email.
Okay, well, Matt, that's all the questions that I see so far. Folks, thanks for your attention. Matt, thank you as always. As I mentioned before, we'll be doing part 2 next week. If you have not signed up for that separately, you need to do that. It needs a separate registration, and I'll include the link for that registration in the email that goes out in the next day or two. So thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
Take care, guys. Thanks for stopping in.